I want to welcome you to the show. You are the host of the #1 horror platform on YouTube, Dead Meat. James A. Janisse is in the building here tonight. James A. Janisse, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm good, Max. How are you, man?
Doing pretty well. It's an honor to have you here on the show. I've been a fan of your channel for the longest time. It's an honor to have you here. Congratulations on all your achievements and accolades and what you've done for yourself and building your own brand in this horror business, man.
Oh, thank you.
Huge. You've been busy this whole October. What does your October consist of? I know you go to cons, you do interviews, kill counts. What does your October consist of?
Yeah, man. So October is crazy, and it always has been for me as far as long as Dead Meat's been around. Baseline, I put out more videos, right? So I basically double, and I think in 2020 I tripled the amount of kill counts I was releasing. So that increases the workload on its own right there. Then, especially as the channel goes on and it gets bigger and these studios take more notice of it, we're getting invited to more things. So this year, we just got invited to so many awesome things, a lot of things to do with Halloween Kills since that was coming out. And there was some Candyman stuff. So there were all these things going on that they were awesome events that we would get invited to, but like we would go there and then it'd be filmed and then we would have to edit that as well. And so it was like that workload on top of the regular workload. And yeah, it was a lot. There's also just a lot going on personally. We're kind of turning Dead Meat from just a channel into a legitimate company. We've hired on employees. We're giving them healthcare and 401ks and stuff. So that is an ongoing process, talking with like lawyers and accountants and all this other. Can I swear on this show? Is that right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, all this other shit that I don't have any idea about, man. I'm just the guy who made silly videos and lucked out because they got popular, and now I'm like running a business. But it's been a learning experience, a very tiring one, but a very rewarding one as well.
You started a while ago because you had an original show, Practical Folks, and you started this independent channel right here with Dead Meat in 2016. You started to gain your fan base and your following. Shortly after 2016, when did this become a business in which you got this huge following and you could move forward, which you just mentioned, giving people healthcare and 401ks?
Yeah, so it's been a gradual process. Dead Meat was 2017, early 2017 when it launched. Yeah. First video came out in April of 2017. And like I just said, I was super lucky in how quickly it became successful. I think 10 weeks in, I had a video that came out that had surpassed all the views from the other channel that you mentioned, Practical Folks. And that channel had been started under a different name in 2012, I think. So, you know, I'd been going at it for a number of years on YouTube, and finding that success that fast was crazy to witness. And so, yeah, it's been a real gradual process. Because I think for like maybe almost the first year, I was still doing everything by myself, all the editing, all the writing, which I still do right now, just everything, all the graphics work. It was just all a one-man show, which is insane looking back. But that's also why if you look back at those early episodes, they don't feel as polished or as in-depth as modern day episodes, because I didn't have the time to devote as much resources and such to the writing. After a while, I started to hire on people. My first editor, Bree, was just a fan of Practical Folks who followed over from Practical Folks onto Dead Meat, and she expressed an interest in editing, and she was really good at it. So she took some of the workload from me, which was nice. Made In is the name of a network that I reached out to because I kept getting hit with copyright claims, which is still an ongoing thing. But I was like, I'm using all this movie footage. It's getting copyright claimed, but I know there are other channels out there that use this kind of movie footage. What are they doing? So I looked up CinemaSins and saw who represented them. And it was this company Made In. And I emailed them and they were like, oh, hey, we were just looking at your channel. And they're this company based in Tennessee. They're like an MCN, but unlike some of the other ones, they don't represent thousands of channels. They just handle like a dozen channels. I'm one of the smaller ones, I think, actually, because they're, you know, they represent and help Binging with Babish and CinemaSins. So like these big channels, and they really knew what they were doing. So I think that they came on in 2018 or was it 2019? But when they came on, that also helped relieve some of the pressure. And so it's just been a gradual thing of like, oh, now we have more resources to hire more people to help us out with more work. And we have more ideas that we can hire people to come in and film things and edit things.
Mm-hmm. And you just built your way up from there. You're continuing to do that. You're being invited to screenings at these big films. Halloween Kills is one of them. David Gordon Green, you hosted a Q&A with him.
Yeah, Chelsea and I, Chelsea coming in on the channel pretty early on with the podcast too, which I think is essential to Dead Meat as a brand, just so it's not just the kill count show. I think the podcast does a lot of work making us appear serious and knowledgeable about the things we're talking about, because kill count, I mean, nowadays it's more informative, but early on it was just like goofing around and making jokes and such. But yeah, it was nuts having that screening with David Gordon Green, because especially it was a screening just for Dead Meat fans. Like Universal reached out and was like, hey, do you want to have a screening that your fans can sign up for? And we filled this theater. And so all these people who are fans of the channel got to come out to City Walk in Universal City over here in LA. And they filled up the theater. And then David Gordon Green came by. And I guess he just came by just to do this interview. Like, you know, he's seen the movie. He didn't stick around for the movie, but I thought that this was like a thing that he was doing ahead of time. No, they brought him out just for Dead Meat, which was freaking awesome. He was great to chat with before the movie. It was before the movie, so we couldn't ask any like juicy spoilery questions, but it was still cool. And then what was great was like, as he was leaving after the conversation, he was shaking our hands and he was like, I'll see you guys for the next one. Like, just implying that like this will be a continuous future thing. And it's so cool to have that kind of just be talking to these people who make these movies that I'm such a fan of and I respect so much. And now they're like giving me respect too. It's wild, man.
That's huge. Was this the first event that you held in which all your fans came to this theater?
It was the first screening like that. One other thing that we did was, so the podcast, which Chelsea runs, is part of the Rooster Teeth Network, the Roost. And so they have their convention every year, RTX in Austin, Texas. And we got to do a live show there in 2019. I don't think there's like a recording of it or anything. So it was just this one-time thing that if you were there, you were there. But it was a ton of fun. Chelsea put together a game show with like prizes and stuff. And I was just running around with a microphone and talking to all these people. And we filled a decent sized little auditorium there. So we're hoping for more live stuff in the future. We're always people are always reaching out to us about like how to have Dead Meat go live. And it's a cool thing, but it's like everything. It's like, when I have the time, I'll think about it. And I just seem to never have the time, unfortunately.
Yes, you're very busy. And before we get into life of being in Detroit and you actually becoming an actor and moving into horror talk, I need your thoughts on Halloween Kills. I did listen to your podcast that you did, and you didn't like that they took away Laurie Strode like they did in the original Halloween 2. But I mean, the gore was over the top in this film. And I feel as though that Rob Zombie really has had an impact on the newer horror movies since he's came out with House of a Thousand Corpses. How do you feel about Michael Myers just being such a violent figure? Because you look back at these original films and they weren't as violent, where he's popping eyes out of people's skulls and stuff like that. It's insane. What's your thoughts on this gore porn that they have out here now? Do you think Rob Zombie had a definite impact on that, in which it may have tainted the art of horror?
I don't think it tainted it. I think it's a different style. And I think that so Rob Zombie filmed House of Thousand Corpses, I think in 2000, maybe even late 99. There was a big delay.
Yeah, because he couldn't get a distribution deal because of the whole 9/11 and Columbine. And it took him a while to get a distribution.
Yeah, it was a weird time in the world, but he filmed it. And then, when he was filming that was the era of like the post-Scream, teen-oriented. I mean, Scream goes there with the violence and the scares, but a lot of the copycats that came after, they were more toned down. They were targeted towards teens. It's also the same time as the Ring imitators. That was maybe a tiny bit later, but this was an era of horror where it was skewing young, and it was less vulgar, I guess, than maybe some of the things from the 80s. And I like that Zombie was like, no, we're gonna go back to like the exploitation days and the grindhouse kind of aesthetic, and brought that with House of a Thousand Corpses, and then again with Devil's Rejects. And then of course his take on Halloween was just this brutal, violent Michael Myers. And it can be really uncomfortable to watch, but I don't mind being uncomfortable watching movies. I think that it's good to make yourself uncomfortable sometimes. You got to challenge yourself, and that's how you grow as a person. That's how you learn what you like and you don't like. And so Rob Zombie movies, they're not all for me, and I don't think there are any where I'm on board with it 100% of the way through. There's always something that bothers me about him, but I really respect what he brings to the genre. Just his like no fucks given attitude, doing it his way. I think he could probably use someone telling him no sometimes, but I am like interested in his take on the Munsters. I'm curious to see what that's all about. I actually kind of like his wife as an actress sometimes. I know that she gets a lot of hate, but yeah, I think that he brought that element of violence that then Hostel and Saw did as well. And it gave us the torture porn, the gore porn, which was more prominent in the 2000s. So in a way, Halloween Kills is almost like a throwback to 10 years prior. Because I feel like, after the real violent torture porn and the like reboot phase kind of ended in the early 2010s, I feel like for a stretch there, things weren't as violent, and they were just, I don't know, maybe it was like an artsier period. I'm thinking like It Follows and The Witch and all these other like prestige in quotes horror movies that were coming out. So Halloween Kills is almost like a throwback to a decade ago.
I agree. It's for me, I prefer Michael Myers as the cat-like figure that you see Nick Castle and Dick Warlock play. Whereas though I think James U. Courtney plays a great shape though, even though in this one they really turned up the notch here with the violence. And I thought Halloween Kills to me was just, in my opinion, it was a terrible movie. You look at Halloween 2018, it was so superior compared to this.
Oh, I love 2018. Dude. Yeah, I love 2018. Yeah, I'm hoping they. I think that everyone's ultimate appraisal of Halloween Kills is going to be kind of contingent on how Halloween Ends is, because Halloween Kills right now feels like it was just kind of spinning its wheels. Very much the middle film in a trilogy. A lot of characters acting dumb, but if Halloween Ends can stick the landing, I'm wondering if people will look back at Halloween Kills a little more fondly, because I felt like there were plenty of issues with it. I still had a pretty good time watching it with the side characters. So I don't know. I'm waiting to see how they close it out.
Yeah, I feel as though there should have been a little bit more suspense in Halloween Kills when you look at the older ones, where you see him in the perception in which he's breathing from the mask and you're at the edge of your seat, whereas though you really didn't have that perception and feeling in this one.
Yeah, I don't know. There were a few good scares, but they were more sudden, I think, rather than the prolonged suspense. There was nothing, I think, akin to like Annie going out to the car and that suspense of knowing where is he? Oh, and the windshield is foggy. He must be in the car. Oh no, and now he's strangling her. Yeah, there wasn't like that.
Yeah. I want to spin this right to the beginning of your history in which you were growing up in Detroit, Michigan. Tell us about your early life.
Well, right outside Detroit. I make sure to never say that I'm from Detroit, even though I know colloquially anyone from Metro Detroit will say I'm from Detroit. It's just easier. But I never say that. I always say I'm from the Detroit area, because I feel as though the city, I haven't earned that. I haven't earned enough to say I'm from Detroit, because I lived just outside of it in a city bordering Detroit. So I was closer than most people who say they're from Detroit. I'm from Lincoln Park is where I lived. I went to school in Southgate, and that's from the Downriver community. It's part of Wayne County, south of Detroit. And, a lot of the people from Michigan who I went to college with at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and who I run into out here, and if they're from the Detroit area, they're usually from north of Detroit in Macomb County, and they're a little bit higher income places. And so mine is, I mean, my friends will tease me for being like a downriver rat, because I just had, I was into fucking backyard wrestling. I was listening to Limp Bizkit. I was, just being kind of a trashy person, but I'll revel in it. I'll be proud of that, man. That's who I was growing up, and that's what I was dealt. And I think I made out all right, but I never went to like the city and hung out. My sister did a lot. She's 3 years older than me, and she had a rebellious period in her teenage years. So like she would go hang out in the city. And if Janelle ever wants to say she's from Detroit, she fucking earned it. But I did not. I was in like the lily white suburbs, the safer areas. And so I'm from the Detroit area, but still a lot of pride in D-Town. I love it.
When did your love of horror begin, and what was the first horror movie that you can recall that you saw as a viewer, and even one that terrified you most being young?
Yeah, I started pretty early. I remember that Night of the Living Dead and Serial Mom from John Waters were two movies that my mom would allow us to watch real young, just because she was a fan. I think, Night of the Living Dead probably scared her when it came out. Would that be right, age-wise? Yeah, she'd be like a teenager when it came out, so I think she just had a respect for it as a film, and then she really liked the satirical elements of Serial Mom. But I do remember my family renting Scream after it came out, and they were watching it in the living room, and that opening scene just scared me. I mean, if they had rented it, that came out Christmas 96, so it would have been in 97. I probably would have been about 7 or 8 years old, just about 8 years old. And I remember running away from out of the living room because the opening scene was so scary. But it was probably shortly thereafter, by 99. So like when I was like 10 years old, that I got really into horror movies. Scream, I think, was formative for me, because I remember just feeling as though like, oh, that was the movie that scared me when I was a little baby when I was 8, but now I'm 10 and can watch it, and I'm fucking cool now. But my parents gave me a lot of leeway and freedom growing up, probably too much. Maybe should have had a little more guide rails for me, but they figured that as long as I was doing well in school, I could do whatever the hell else. And I always had a 4.0, graduated second in my class, so school came easy to me. And so I was given the freedom to do whatever else, including we would go up to my local video store, and my mom like made it so that I could rent R-rated movies by myself, even though I remember specifically being in 7th grade and writing out to-do lists, which included ride my bike up to the video store, rent this horror movie, come back, copy it onto a blank VHS with my 2 VCRs, because I was doing that as a kid, and add it to my HTML coded horror movie website that I made at that time. So I was given a lot of freedom by my parents, and I think that contributed to me finding that love for horror very early on, even though my mom hated the genre. My dad was pretty indifferent to it. It wasn't something that I inherited from then. It was more something that I found on my own and was super into for a few years, and then kind of fell out of it probably as I got more into like computer gaming in high school, and the landscape of the horror genre wasn't as appealing to me.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to hear just about Scream, because you look at it now, you're doing your own, you did a show there in the original Scream house. Looking back on that, it's pretty wild now.
Yeah, we got invited by Paramount to just go stay at the house they used to shoot Scream in. And it was just Chelsea and I staying the night there. It was super, super cool. We already released the podcast, like you said, where we were talking about Scream that we filmed in that living room. We also filmed a separate video. It's a tour of the house talking about like where they shot everything and what makes sense with the physical layout of the house and what doesn't. And that'll be coming out in January ahead of the new Scream, which I'm so excited for. Never thought I'd be excited for a non-Wes Craven Scream, but then they got Radio Silence doing it, who are not only personal friends of ours, but they did Ready or Not, which I think nails that tone of being really funny, but also serious, scary, gory. And I just hope they bring that for the new Scream. I can't wait.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical because Wes Craven died and he wasn't going to be a part of this new film. Do you have any thoughts on who you may think is the new killer? Do you have any?
No, that's the thing with me is I tend to kind of turn my brain off. I never try to guess things because I like to just consume it as it comes. So you'll never catch me like looking for clues and trying to figure out something ahead of time. I just like to be a passive viewer, and I think that gives me the most honest reaction to things, because if you start thinking of your own endings and thinking of how you want something to go, you might be disappointed if it's not that way, even if it's really good on its own merits, So I just like to take what they give me and then appraise it.
There's always this bickering back and forth between fans. You even see this online between Scream and Scream 2. What do you think is the superior film? Because there are people that believe that Scream 2 is better than the first one.
Oh, I think those people are very wrong.
Yeah.
We just rewatched the quadrilogy, and so I have a fresh view of all 4 movies. And honestly, Scream 2 might be my least favorite Scream. Because
wow. That's a hot take.
It is a hot take because I know that Scream 3, I railed against Scream 3 for years and I called it a garbage movie and that it was horrible. But this time through, man, watching it, I was so entertained by Scream 3. I was laughing. I was having a good time. I think I was just able to take it less seriously and enjoy it as the more comedic Scream of the series. Scream 2, I feel, almost gets caught in between. It's not as funny as Scream 3 becomes. It's kind of just a rehashing of the first one, just done a little lesser. It's real chopped up because of what they had to do during production with script leaks and such. Like Mickey wasn't originally going to be the killer. And I think that's evident in the fact that he disappears for 50 minutes of the movie before he's revealed as the killer. And you're like, wait, who the fuck's this guy? And there are just scenes that don't work at all for me. The singing and the
On the cafeteria.
Yeah, the singing in the cafeteria, and even the climax, they're on stage and Sydney's defeating the enemy ghost faces with like smoke from like theater antics and like cardboard bricks falling on them and stuff. I think it's so dumb. It's like it tries to be real serious, but it's just has some scenes that don't work for me. So yeah, Scream 2 might be my least favorite of the Screams, honestly.
Oh, that it's a hot take, but I can understand why. And I think they had a strong opening, especially in the bathroom scene. I think the opening was strong, but then when you see the ending and Mickey's the killer, exactly, you're like, who is this?
Yeah, I mean, I love Timothy Olyphant.
But, he was great in The Crazies, using Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, Dreamcatcher, what a crazy ass movie, man.
Oh, Stephen King. Oh man, but these classics that are just coming along, Halloween Kills. And do you think that eventually, you're hearing about this Friday the 13th settlement going on, and A Nightmare on Elm Street? Which franchise do you think is going to be the next to take off like Halloween Kills and Halloween?
It's a good question. I don't know, because as far as I'm aware, there's not really movement on Nightmare on Elm Street, right? There's not any discussion of anything. Future installments, because from what I understand, I believe the Wes Craven estate owns the rights to it. And I imagine they're probably going to be pretty protective of it. They're not going to want another, like the 2010 remake of Nightmare. I don't like, and I feel like most people don't like. Out of all the big horror remakes, I would say it's probably the most uniformly disliked, because you'll have defenders of Rob Zombie's Halloween. I am one of them. You'll have people who acknowledge correctly that the Friday the 13th reboot is fucking awesome, but I think there are less defenders of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and so they might be more hesitant. But again, I mean, that was 11 years ago. I don't know. And then with Friday, I know that there was some movement on the legal thing, but I don't know a lot about law, but I know enough that nothing ever seems to be completely settled. There's always appeals and such. So I don't know what's going to go on with that. Even if there is, even if that finally does get settled between those men in their late 70s, 80s, I think, Cunningham and Miller, even if that does get settled, it's going to take a while to develop and produce something for us to actually watch. So who knows? I think Halloween is going to close out with Halloween Ends. We probably won't see another Halloween after that for at least a little bit. And
it never ends.
Yeah. We'll definitely get another one at some point, but there'll probably be like a cool off period of at least 3-4 years, maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's insane, these sequels and reboots and retcons, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. This will actually segue into my next topic here, because why keep making these sequels when in my opinion, they don't surpass the originals? In my opinion, I think Halloween 2 is one of the greatest sequels of all time from 1980.
Oh, the first one, 1981. Yeah.
I think that's one of the great. I think, to me, that's a better movie than Halloween Kills.
Okay. Between those two, I don't know what I would rank higher. I don't love Halloween 2 as much as other people do. I know it is a very a very beloved horror sequel. It's always kind of bored me, especially like
because of the hospital and Laurie Strode being taken out. Yeah, I can understand that from your point
I do like a lot of elements of it, but Halloween as a whole, the franchise, I think, is kind of dull to me. But I don't know, man. There are some sequels that are great. Dream Warriors is awesome. It's the name of the game in horror. Like, you're going to have these killers that people are going to be attached to and they're going to want to see more of. And then what's great is that, the first movie is always a movie that establishes something. And the sequels, if you can do it right, which isn't often, but you might be able to have more fun with it because you're not spending time with like the origin. That's why in my ranking video for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I did put Dream Warriors above the original. And like I said in the video, they're tied. They're tied. I can't say concretely that one is better than the other, but I do think what Dream Warriors has over the original is that, like, doesn't have to waste time teasing who Freddy Krueger is and like slow rolling his arrival. It's like Dream Warrior starts, you know who he is. You're getting right into it right away. And I think that's a lot of fun, and it works for a movie like that.
Welcome to primetime, bitch.
Welcome to primetime, bitch.
Classic. And Robert Englund, that's another issue why the Nightmare on Elm Street series may never move forward, even though I think Jackie Earle Haley played a great Freddy in his own way.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Just Robert Englund, it's a typecasted role.
I mean, it's the same. Well, because obviously with Michael and Jason, they have performers who bring a lot to the role.
Kane
Everyone
Hodder.
loves Kane Hodder. Yeah. I think James Jude Courtney will probably go down as like a very highly ranked Michael Myers.
Yeah, I do
but
too.
They are still, you can find other people to provide similar or even a different take that's just as good mannerisms when it's just based on the physicality. When you have a voice and a personality to the character like Freddy Krueger or Chucky, it's difficult to find a new version of that. And I think the remake did a decent job. The Child's Play remake, as many issues as I have with that existing in the first place, I think Mark Hamill did a great job. Found this new voice literally for that character, but it's still difficult when you put him up against the original. And I don't know if that Child's Play remake is going to have a sequel, but obviously the Jackie Earle Haley Freddy didn't have one. So I don't know if you can have a new character play those personality-based killers and get away with another franchise. Because even Candyman, what it did, the new Candyman, it's not the same Candyman character that Tony Todd played. And I think that was a wise way to kind of sidestep that issue rather than recasting Candyman and saying, no, this is the same guy, just played by someone different. It's a different character. And I think that was pretty wise and might give that franchise a path forward if they so choose to continue down it. But it's tough when the killer is tied to a personality.
Even with Doug Bradley as Pinhead, another one.
Yeah, and right now I'm covering the Hellraiser movies,
That's
but I'm only doing the first 4, so those are the only 4 I've watched.
Those are the only good ones.
Well, I've heard Defenders of Inferno, the 5th one by Scott Derrickson. I know that I watched that when I was a kid, but I remember nothing of it. Is that the one with Henry Cavill in it?
I couldn't even tell you. I have not seen Inferno.
Yeah, but I've really enjoyed these first 4 Hellraisers, all in their own ways, and I'm curious to check out the rest of the franchise because I'm like, are they as bad as everyone says? I mean, everyone says they're awful, but I want to be able to judge that for myself. But I do know, Doug Bradley swaps out as Pinhead after a while, and that's another role where it's like, I can't imagine that. I've never seen the non-Doug Bradley Pinhead, and so I'm curious what my reaction would be to it.
And the way I rank the Hellraisers, I think the first one's a masterpiece, but to me, instead of the second one, Hellbound, I prefer Hell on Earth, which is Hellraiser 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different flavor. Totally different. It's Hellraiser 3 is that more loud and big and explosive and actiony one, and Pinhead's way more present. He's like always on the screen, always with the dialogue. And I mean, my coverage of that movie comes out on Friday, and people will see my thoughts on it. Basically, I like the characters. I think the acting is awful, but I still like the characters. And it's a fun, dumb movie. I think it's fun and dumb. It's great.
You brought up Chucky before. You've been praising the new series that takes place on SyFy and USA, and it's been holding my attention because I was a little leery with the Curse of Chucky, the Cult of Chucky, and the Seeds, all these of Chucky's that are not the first 3. And I'm surprised about how well this has been put together by Don Mancini.
Well, did you see Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky?
I watched some of them. It didn't hold my attention. It really didn't. I kind of walked away.
That's the thing is, I feel like a lot of people who are, now Chucky's getting a lot of attention now because of the show, which I think is great. I feel like a lot of the people who are like either tuning into the show and saying, "Oh, I'm surprised it's this good," or just have these thoughts on what Chucky is as a franchise and what it's become, checked out after Seed of Chucky or maybe even Bride of Chucky. And I feel as though I've seen a lot of times people online talking about the franchise without having seen Curse and Cult of Chucky, which I think are fucking great movies. I think Curse of Chucky especially is amazing. Cult has its faults, but I think Curse of Chucky is an incredible pivot for the franchise after it went the more comedic direction with Bride and Seed of Chucky. And it's kind of frustrating for me on Don Mancini's behalf to see people being like, "Oh, I didn't expect this to be so good." When it's like, no, he just made 2 really good movies. Yeah. And even if they're not your style, they're not like Seed, where it's pretty universally disliked. I'm actually curious to revisit it since, you know, now I like Scream 3. Maybe I'll like Seed of Chucky.
Yeah. Oh,
but I feel like a lot of people watched the first 3 Chuckies and the first 3 Child's Plays, and that was their preferred way of having Chucky. And then Bride and Seed came out and they're like, oh, this series is dumb now, and never gave Curse and Cult a chance because those went to direct to video. They weren't in theaters. I don't know why. I would love to find out why, because back when I covered those movies in 2017, I didn't do my deep dive research into, you know, how they got made and everything. But it just sucks. I imagine it's as simple as Seed of Chucky was poorly received, probably didn't do well at the box office, so they stopped giving it a theatrical release. But that's so unfair to me because, you know, the Friday the 13th movies and the Halloween movies, all of those fucking things came out in theaters, and there are some goddamn
horrible. Halloween Resurrection, horrible.
Yeah, like, come on. If all of those got to come out in theaters,
Jason X.
Give Chucky the respect he deserves. And I think if Curse had been a theatrical released film, maybe it would have been seen by more people and more acknowledged. But as it stands, I feel like it is an underseen movie that I would love to change somehow because I have a personal fondness for it. I love it. And I'm glad now maybe people will revisit it since the series seems to be doing really well. I don't know how it's doing ratings wise, but I know critically and with the audience, they seem to really like it. I love it. And it leans a lot on these characters who were introduced in Curse and Cult and continuing that storyline. That's the fucking thing of that I love about the Chucky franchise. And part of why I had such an issue with the remake is because Don Mancini has been at least the co-writer for all of the movies and has just been at the helm. He's treated the franchise more like a show than a movie franchise. You know, a show that'll have a showrunner that makes sure everything is coherent and continuous. He has done that in such an interesting way, jumping back and forth between styles, whether it's the comedic sensibilities of some of them, some gothic aesthetics in them, the psych ward horror that is in Cult of Chucky. He's able to revisit all these different things and yet still maintain the continuity. Like we just had Chucky mention his kid, Glenn and Glenda, in the show.
Chucky, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like still canonical that Glenn is out there. And I just love that. Like you can tell that Don Mancini just fucking loves this franchise. And I'm so happy for him that he has a successful show right now and that his name is right there in the beginning of every episode. It says Chucky, created for television by Don Mancini. And I'm just like fist pumping. Hell yeah, Don. You put in that work making those 2, even when it was direct to video. And I'm sure that had to have been discouraging of like, I'm making another Chucky movie, but they're not letting me release it in theaters. That sucks. But he kept at it. And now I think he's finally found a new audience that will hopefully support him and hopefully we'll get another season.
Mm-hmm. And I hope it does because it's held my attention. And watching the episode last night, they really hit the ground running with this and keep the audience's attention because main characters are dying every episode. They killed off 2 main ones last night. Yeah,
it was surprising. And what was great about the last night's episode for people watching this in the future, it's episode 6 of the first season. It's really when they've combined all of the storylines. And I like that they kind of slow rolled the beginning of the season without immediately bringing in Jennifer Tilly and immediately bringing in Andy from the first 3 films, played again by Alex Vincent, who was the kid actor, which is nuts. But they took the time to establish these new characters, this new world. And I think it really paid off because now that they are bringing in these other elements from all 7 of those movies, all 7 of those movies have been getting integrated into the show. It's like, it just feels like such a good payoff. I love seeing Alex and Kyle doing their thing. I love Fiona Dorff as Nika is incredible. I think she is almost as good and as an invaluable addition to the franchise as Jennifer Tilly, who was like the shot in the arm that the franchise needed in Bride of Chucky. And like, I'm glad that she's still around playing Tiffany, possessing Jennifer Tilly's body. Like it's all this incredible continuity, strange shit that Don keeps track of and stays faithful to, even knowing that there's a bunch of new people watching the show. He's not worried about alienating them. He's like, just come along for the ride. It's a good time. And I love him having that confidence in the viewers.
Yeah, it's an amazing show. I hope that there is a second season. I think there will be because of the critically acclaimed, which you mentioned before. And reading the reviews on, and it's always trending on Twitter every Tuesday night.
You know, it's hard for me to know what's actually trending on Twitter because I feel like Twitter is like, hey, this shit's trending. And you're like, is it for everyone though, or are all these wrestlers trending because I like wrestling?
Yeah.
I don't think the whole world is talking about Sasha Banks right now, Twitter.
Yeah.
But you're making it feel as though they are. But I do think it is. I do think the Chucky series is being well received, and yeah, I think it'll get another season.
Brad Dourif.
What they need to do though is put it on Peacock, because it's the SyFy Universal show, SyFy USA show, and they're part of the NBC family. They need to put that shit on Peacock so that people can watch it, because I know that I often see responses to tweets and comments on videos being like, where do I watch this show? It shouldn't be difficult. You can't make your show difficult to watch nowadays. No. Like there's a billion streaming services. Stick it on one that at least is at a Peacock level, because right now you have to go on the USA app or the SyFy app or some piddling shit. Put that shit on an actual streaming service so that people can catch up and become new fans,
Yeah. Brad Dourif, he just does an amazing job. He's meant for the voice as Chucky too.
Oh yeah.
Mark Hamill did a great job. Brad Dourif will always be the voice of Chucky. And just going into the other series here that I wanted to bring up with you, which is, it could be considered a dumpster fire, which is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I heard that they were going to be doing a retconning similar to the Halloween franchise, in which they were going to be making a direct sequel to the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know what's been going on with it, but I heard it's going to be a direct release to Netflix.
Yeah, I know that they're working on a new Chainsaw film. What's funny is that they already did that direct sequel to the original with Texas Chainsaw 3D. Yeah, that movie is a direct sequel to the original, because it even has that opening scene where it's
from the first one, supposed to be the ending of the first one. Then the cops
it takes
come.
place
There's
like
a
minutes
shootout
after the first one ends, and you have Bill Moseley playing Drayton, which I think was really cool that they got him to do that. But yeah, the Texas Chainsaw franchise is the only franchise I can think of with a timeline as messed up as the Halloween one, because you got so many different
storylines. Nothing. In 3, he's with a different family. The second one, he's in a cave. And don't even get me started about the Next Generation.
I love Texas Chainsaw 2.
I think that's the only fair sequel, in my opinion, and I think it's because Tobe Hooper made it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It was him doing what he wanted with his property.
Yeah.
And what I really like about that one is that, that takes place so many years after. First movie was 74. That sequel's 86. That is 12 years later. And it's still the same filmmaker, but he's coming back and he's saying, all right, you want me to make another one? Okay, but it's not going to be the same fucking thing. Fuck that. We're going to go totally different. It's going to be a comedy. It's going to be wild. And if I could have any movie be turned into a maze at Universal Halloween Horror Nights, it'd be Texas Chainsaw 2, hands down. You start in the radio station. You got fucking Chop Top there with his Sonny Bono wig, and then you got Leatherface dancing around and busting through doors, and then you wind up, in that like amusement park underground cave thing. Like, those are 2 excellent settings to have for a haunted house to walk through, and I wish they would do it, because, I mean, sure, maybe people don't know Texas Chainsaw 2 as much as some other movies, but twice now they've had a house based on Halloween 4. Specifically Halloween 4, which I know horror fans like, but like more people, just as many people like Texas Chainsaw 2 as they do Halloween 4. Maybe.
I agree. Don't even get me started about the Next Generation, though. Talk about a horrible sequel.
Oh yeah. I mean, what a weird time for horror, because that was early 90s?
Yeah.
Mid-90s?
Horrible. Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. I can't believe that he was even in that. Well, that's where their whole budget went. They went right to him.
Oh, no, dude. I don't think that guy was earning anything more than a day rate back then, right? That was before he was meth. Well, no, because Dazed and Confused would have been before that. I think. I don't know, man. I don't know my McConaughey timeline.
Yeah, it's just such a mess of a franchise. You have all these other films coming out here. One film that I'm really piqued in my interest in seeing is The Black Phone, made by Scott Derrickson, who also made Sinister.
Yeah, and Hellraiser Inferno.
Yeah, we brought that up before.
Yeah. I am also interested. My thing with new horror movies is I will hear that one is good, and that's basically when I like close the metal door and just like I don't like to watch trailers. I don't like to know details of plot. I like to, if you tell me a movie's good, I like to watch it and discover it as it's happening. I don't like to have preconceived ideas of what it is. what's going to happen in it. I haven't watched, I don't know what the fuck Antlers is about, but I really want to see it because I heard it's good. Is it about a deer killer? Is it supernatural? I have no fucking idea, but I want to watch it. And similar with the Black Phone, I've heard it's good. I like the people attached to it. That's another thing that I'll just take that. Oh, this person's making it. Cool, I'm in. And that's how I like to watch movies.
Sinister was another franchise that I feel as though had so much potential because the first one was a great movie. As Ethan Hawke is going to be playing the Bagul type of role in the Black Phone, and I love how he's embraced the horror community and being a horror actor now. It's really amazing to see because he's coming from big time movies like Training Day. It's insane. But it's Sinister. What's your take on that? Those two movies, because the first one I feel as though is a classic in a way because it was so great, and the second one just kind of went downhill, and that's why we didn't get a 3. What's your take on the whole Sinisters?
I kind of ignore the second one. That one is a movie that feels like it was a direct to video movie. I don't think it was, but it just has that feel to it. It's just kind of rehashing some shit. It's got too many kids running around. I don't know. I thought it was bullshit, honestly. But the first Sinister, I think, is one of the best horror movies of, was it 2010?
The 2010s,
yeah. So I think that's one of the best horror movies of the previous decade. I fucking love it. I think it's terrifying. I think the found footage element of it is great. I don't know. It's a haunted house movie that they can't move away from, which is always really funny with haunted house movies. Like, well, just move. That one, it's like, well, if you move, then you're adding yourself to the list. And I think Bagul is cool. Bakul. And I think it's great. And didn't need a sequel. I like it when movies don't have sequels, honestly. As much as franchises and sequels are the name of the game in the genre, I can really respect a movie that's just one and done. Like It Follows. I don't ever need to see a sequel to that. That was a great self-contained movie. And I like to see new ideas, original ideas. I'll always go see the sequel, but I do like it instead when there's just new shit to check out.
Jaws didn't need a sequel, even though Jaws 2 is decent.
It's all right.
You mentioned Dream Warriors before, and Scream 2 was you thought that was the worst of the franchise. What is your top sequel besides Dream Warriors?
Dream Warriors would definitely be up there. Top sequel. Let me just kind of run through the franchises. Thinking of
Freddy's Revenge, Saw 2.
I do like Saw 2. I think I also really like Child's Play 2. It's another situation where they don't have to spend the first half of the movie with the is he not a possessed doll type situation or like hiding him. Child's Play 2, he gets to the killing right away. So Child's Play 2 is definitely way up there for me for sequels. Kind of looking at my Blu-ray collection.
Psycho 2
was here. Psycho 2. I just watched all the Psychos recently, a couple of months ago. I just had them on the background while I was cleaning up and doing stuff in the new house. I like the Psycho movies. I don't know if I can't differentiate between them. I know that the last one, he was a little older. There was one with that guy from Lost, Frank from Lost. He was like in it. I don't know.
It's tough to really pinpoint a sequel because there's so many of them, and that's why I go right to Halloween 2 because I feel as though that and you know why I go to that, because it feels like the same night from the first one in 1978. It feels like the continuation.
Yeah, that's always nice to have that continuation. I do like that aspect of Halloween Kills, honestly, that it takes place immediately after Halloween 2018. That it feels like Kills deals with the fallout from 2018, which I like.
Yeah. Another franchise in which I respect your opinion on, because I mean, you always see like the comments under there, and people got to respect your opinion on covering films by the creators of Rosemary's Baby and Jeepers Creepers. I did see that there is going to be a Jeepers Creepers Reborn, and it's going to be interesting how this kind of turns now with the different people behind it, and Jonathan Breck not playing the Creeper. It's going to be interesting to see that.
Oh yeah, I honestly don't know pretty much anything about the franchise. I saw I owned the DVD of the first one when I was younger, back when it like came out. When did that first one come out? Was it like 2001?
2001. Yeah.
So that was when I was like peak into horror. So that would have been like a new horror movie for me at the time. I owned it on DVD. I remember Justin Long gets his eyes removed at the end. But that's pretty much all I know about it. When I started Dead Meat, it was in my mind of like, oh, that's a movie that I'll get to. And
then the controversy broke, and You know,
Yeah,
it ruins it, because that's a movie that I grew up watching, because my grandfather was someone I watched all these horror movies with. And I remember being on SyFy and it being one of my favorite horror movies of all time. But when like I heard that news, it's like it ruins it. Then you see the people comparing the creeper to the real creeper, which is behind the
that's the
film.
thing is
You know,
like, you know, there take Rosemary's Baby. I think that movie is fucking incredible. I think it's surprisingly feminist and really strong, strongly so, and I love it. And it's damn near a perfect movie. And so I think with that movie, it's not hard for me to separate the art from the artist, which, you know, is fine for anyone to do. But then from what I understand, yeah, Jeepers Creepers does have elements of like
what the director did,
of
yeah.
what he did kind of in the movie. And when the crime infiltrates the art that much, it's much harder to just say, well, it's separate the art from the artist. It's like, yeah, but that is being influenced by this.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, one day I'll watch the movies. I haven't.
You'll cover them when they're dead.
Yeah, exactly. When there's no way for them to reap monetary benefit from it. But yeah, until then, I can't say anything because I haven't seen them. Maybe they're great movies, but I can't say.
Yeah, and even in the third one, I think is just a crime is when he put a joke in what his crime and what he joked about a crime similar to what he committed in the third one, which was just
I heard about that
in poor taste, and the third one was abysmal. And you know, I'm curious to see what these new creators are going to do with that, because I think the creeper is a horror icon in a way, and it's a shame that that's tainted it, but it's unfortunate and we just gotta look past it. But man, the horror conventions, when did you start going to horror conventions? We can get into when you started as a fan into now being able to host at some of these conventions.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Monster Palooza right away when I started Dead Meat. My 2017 Monster Palooza video was actually the second video I uploaded onto the channel after the first Friday the 13th kill count. So yeah, I went there and got to interview Tom Savini just by waiting in line and asking to chat with him briefly, which was really cool. And I think going to Monster Palooza, what was I doing the year prior? I was doing some kind of video shoot or photo shoot when I saw someone walking by in like monster makeup. And we were like, and this was before Dead Meat was even an idea. We were like, hey, what's going on? And they said that they were coming from Monster Palooza, and they said it was a horror convention. And, you know, I wasn't super into horror at that time, but it's always been a interest of mine. I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. I'd love to check that out. And then the next year I had Dead Meat going, and I went there and made a video. And so I just kind of sought out as many conventions that I could. Texas Frightmare in Dallas has been my favorite, just the size of it and the location. I don't know. I really enjoy the Texas Frightmare weekend. The Monster Palooza conventions, Son of Monster Palooza and Monster Palooza, those are fun too. And I'd love to get to other ones. The first time we had a table at one was at a smaller one in Rochester, New York. Scarathon, I think was the name of it. But that was super fun because we got invited to have a booth and be there. And then, you know, we had all these tables and booths lined up for conventions in 2020, and obviously they all got canceled at Monster Palooza, Texas Frightmare. And so we haven't been able to make it back yet. I know Texas Frightmare did have an event in 2021, but it came right as I think Delta was happening. And so we didn't feel comfortable going there. And then we were like, okay, at least we'll have our table at Monster Palooza. That's still happening. And then they canceled that one because they were like, we don't feel comfortable doing it. So hoping that next year things will be more back to normal and we'll be able to get in on it. Because, yeah, so the only convention that we've had a Dead Meat table at was at the end of 2019, October 2019, in Rochester, New York. So, you know, small town, upstate New York. And that was... we were maybe 2 million subscribers at that point, and now we're at like 5 point whatever. So I'm so curious to see what will happen when we have a table at a larger convention now with our current size. Like, I can't imagine what it'll be, because we tried to do an informal meetup at Texas Frightmare in 2019, and we got shut down by the convention because we just tried to have it like outside, but too many fans showed up and formed this huge ass line. And, you know, my moderators were there and helped corral everyone into some semblance of order. but it was still just too much for the convention. They were like, you can't do this. And we were like, we didn't want to do this. But so, that was 2019 again. And now the channel is twice as big, which is insane to think about. Can't wait to be able to get in there and see people again. It was cool going to Halloween Horror Nights this year. That was our first event post-COVID. So we got to walk around among horror lovers and a lot of people spotted us and came up and talked to us, and we love that. So can't wait for the next convention. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm eager for it.
Mm-hmm. I know when I did the promo for the show today, you were posted, you're clueless about hip hop and sports. During COVID, we didn't have sports. So the only thing that kept my mind sane, because when COVID first came out and the world shut down, we were all trapped in our houses. It was like a horror movie, and it still is pretty much. I didn't think, who knows? We didn't think we were going to survive or not. We didn't know what was going to happen. It was really your channel and me continuing to do my shows that really got me through that hard time last year.
Well, good. I'm glad I could provide some semblance of help. I was, early 2020, I was like, all right, I'm scaling back the kill counts for a few months. I'm going to only have one a month for a few months. And then COVID happened. And I was like, all these people are going to be stuck at home with nothing to do. So I kind of ended my break early and got to making more kill counts. And then, so I'm glad that paid off, because, I wanted that time off. And I ended it early, but if it meant that it did help people because they had something to watch, then it was definitely worth it.
What are your top interviews that you've done so far with the show? I saw you got to interview Jamie Lee Curtis. Congratulations on that. That's huge. Who are some people that have been some of your favorite conversations that you've had and you would look forward to having on your show in the future?
Jamie Lee Curtis definitely was great. She was a huge ball of energy. I wish I had more time with her, especially because her interview was also with Judy Greer, who I love.
That's right.
I think she's an underrated comedic actress, and I'm so glad she is in these big movies like Halloween Kills now. And I didn't get to talk to Judy that much. Like when I finally got like a question to pitch to her, they told me I was out of time, and thankfully Judy, sweetheart that she is, was able to answer it as quickly as possible for me. But they were great. John Carpenter was a dream interview. I think we only had like 7 minutes of him. It was very short. These like virtual interviews that we get to do, they're exciting, but they're also a virtual interview. It's just not the same as an in-person thing.
No,
it's harder to do the timing and the back and forth. And it's like, you're talking. Oh, you go ahead. And it's that awkwardness.
You can't gauge that. It's not that organic conversation that you have when you're in person, like you said.
Exactly.
Before.
And I think now it's probably people are better at it than they were 2 years ago before it was so widespread, because now we're more used to this video communication as we have it, but it's not the same as an in-person thing. So I can't wait to get more of those in person, because I think probably my favorite is still Mike Flanagan, director of Dr. Sleep and Midnight Mass, which I haven't had the chance to check out yet though, but I hear it's a masterpiece. Haunting of Hill House is one of the best things I've ever seen. But we got to talk to him at the Overlook Hotel, at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, which the Overlook was based on. And just walking around with him, we were doing like a scavenger hunt, but like that wasn't even the important part. We just got to fucking walk around and talk to Mike Flanagan for a while, and that was so cool, because I think he's one of the best working horror directors today and ever, probably. That was really great. And then I've had such a cool few years getting to talk to the people I've gotten to talk to. Kristen Ritter was a recent one. And it's like, she's great. Loved her in Breaking Bad. And here I am talking to her about Lost Boys. And then hopefully I'll have some more pretty cool ones coming out in the next few months. But hopefully these opportunities keep coming, because I love talking to these people.
Yeah. Who was the worst person that you've dealt with in this horror industry? Because you go to these conventions, you know who's there for the money and who's there for the fans. You have the Tony Morans, and then you have the Kane Hodders, and we know what those definitions lie. But who's someone that you were surprised that wasn't the person, who went there, was a bad character, or just someone that you may have dealt with so far that just wasn't, you just weren't feeling them?
I can't. Here's the thing with that though. Everyone's a person, right? And we all people have good and bad days, and just have different moods that they're in. Because the reason I say this is because the first time that we stood in line, and when we make our convention videos, what we often do is one question interviews. So I'll wait in line to talk to someone, and I'll get up there and I'll have my little microphone, and Chelsea will have the camera. I'll be like, hey, I'll happily pay you for your autograph, picture, whatever. Can I also just ask you one question on camera? And most people, super cool to do it. The first time I did that with Bill Moseley, he was like, why don't you go talk to this guy? And he kind of like shuffled us off to this other dude who basically just ran defense for him, and we didn't get to talk to Bill. And, you know, I was like, fuck, is Bill not cool? Like, does he not like us? But that he just must have not been in the mood, or maybe he was about to go on a break or something, because I've met him several times. I got to act with him in the Ice Nine Kills music video, and all those experiences have been super fucking positive, and he's a super friendly, chill guy. So yeah, I think people should just try to remember, like, I know that not everyone will get to meet these people multiple times like me. I'm so lucky that I have these chances to do it again. And that's why I think anyone who is in a position where people are coming up to them and being happy, they should keep that in mind, that this might be the one time in this person's life they get to meet you. So you should make it the best experience for them that you can. But like I said, everyone's a person. If you're in a bad mood, it just might happen, you know?
Yeah.
And so I can't name any experiences I had that left me with a lasting negative impression. I really can't. I'm trying to think. And the only one that I remember being kind of disappointed by was Bill Moseley. And then that was rectified next time I met him at a convention, and then acting with him in Ice Nine Kills, which was great.
And tell me about getting into acting. What made you decide to go into this field as a host, man?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not an actor.
You're on IMDb.
Sure. It's not that hard to get on IMDb.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
Say that. Yeah, in 2014, because I worked a 1-year position at Universal from throughout all of 2013, right after I moved out to LA. Then that job ended like January of 2014. I was like, I'm going to go off on my own and be an actor and audition and stuff. So for 2 years, to all of 2014 and all of 2015, that's what I would do, is just odd jobs. I worked at a place where we were doing parties for companies, and I would be the blackjack dealer or the craps dealer, and I would also help set up these like craps tables and such. So just a lot of odd jobs while I was trying to audition, and none of it ever stuck. I didn't get any actual parts in anything. Anything you see on IMDb is just like the lowest of budget, just bullshit. No offense to the people who made it, but not only were they like low budget projects, the roles I would get would be like random guy in one scene. Like, I was never successful as an actor, and I think I didn't deserve to be. I look back at who I was during those auditions, and like, I thought I was confident, but I wasn't. I was scared and worried and unsure of who I really was. And I think now I could probably do a better job. So that might be something I try again in the future, just because, I don't know, it's fun to play make believe. That's all it is. I can't say I have actor friends who like love the fucking craft. Like, they are actors and they deserve any success that comes their way. I am not that person. I'm more of like a commentary person. You know, I think my best form is a slightly heightened version of who I am in person. I think I've really been able to leverage that well with the kill count and with podcasts and stuff like that, because I'm just being me, just a more heightened version of it. But acting, it's fun. It's fun to put on another affect and be a different person. And so I'd love to give it another shot now that I am a more confident, secure man and know who I am. I'm not the same scared mid 20-year-old who, when I was doing all those auditions, I had many nights crying over how much debt I was in, and the thought that I would never, ever, ever be able to pay it off, and just having Chelsea pay the rent for us because she had the steady job, and it was just a miserable time. And that's going to affect you when you go into auditions and you're trying to play something. You know, if you're worried about how you're going to afford the gas to get back home, that's going to come through in the audition. So now that I'm at a better place in life and know more of who I am, I would love to give it another shot if I can find the time.
Yeah, you got to work with Rob Zombie, maybe on one of his films.
I don't think Rob Zombie. I think there is a contingent of horror people. I think the whole horror genre, everyone, you know, we all love it. We're all horror fans, but there are cliques within the horror genre. And I would guess that if Rob Zombie put on a kill count, he would be like, what the fuck is this shit? What is this bullshit? Like, happy-go-lucky asshole and he would not be wrong. So I love Rob Zombie. We talked about him at length in the beginning of this, but I don't know if Rob Zombie would like me. Maybe if we spent enough time together.
He did cast Chris Hardwick. I mean,
yeah, but that was like proto Chris Hardwick. That was before Chris Hardwick was like Chris Hardwick, like Talking Dead Chris Hardwick. I don't know. I forget how he knew him and how he got that role in House of a Thousand Corpses. But like, even Chris Hardwick doesn't have. I don't know, man. I bet if you put me and Rob up in a hotel for a week, we would end up getting along great. But I think that some people get a certain first impression of me where they think like, is this fucking guy for real? And it's totally fair for them to think that. I have so many close friends who have told me, yeah, the first time I met you, I thought you were an asshole who was just like pretending to be someone who you're not. And it's like, no, man, that's just who I am. But you know, once you acknowledge that and you get that, I think I'm a likable guy. But I don't always make the first impression. I think that someone is as like tough and wizened as Rob Zombie, I think they're probably going to have their guard up for someone like me with my energy.
Where do you see your show going from here, man? Do you see this getting on big time networks and maybe even you becoming an even bigger host such as Sven Gulli and Elvira? Do you see yourself doing that in the future?
I'm not sure. Right now, I'm happy with what we make and what we have. I'm really proud of the kill count. I make something that I would want to watch. I make something that I would want to exist as a horror fan. When I finish a kill count and I do my final watch through, just making sure that it's all good, I watch it. I'm like, yes, this is a good episode of something that is informative and hopefully entertaining. And it is a good thing to put out into the world for people to enjoy and consume and learn from. So I'm really happy with where it is. I have been doing this for going on 5 years now. That's a long time to be doing any one thing. You can't say never, but I don't intend or want the kill count to end anytime soon. No. You know, I love the show. I would like it to be less of a all-encompassing thing for my life, because right now and for the past 4 years, my life has been the kill count. Like, no matter what I try to do, or it's like always got to get the next kill count out. And it's a lot of work, and it's become more work because of how different the show is and how much more involved the show is now. So I would like it to not be as focal, and whether that means less frequent releases in the future, whether that means bringing on someone else to help me write the scripts, because I still, for all 300 whatever episodes there have been, I've written 99.9% of the words in the script. Occasionally someone will suggest a joke and I'll write it in. But like, that's me doing the work of not only the initial draft of the script, but also the research to learn more about the movie, and then the rewrite, which incorporates all that background knowledge and behind the scenes information. And that, you know, the editing, I now have a team of editors who take off most of the editing workload. I still do a final pass. Maybe I should get to the point where I'm hands off to that too, but I just, as an editor, I got to have that last say. But having those people take that workload from me has been enormously helpful. So now the next step is probably finding someone to help with the writing process. The only thing I'm worried about is that's going to be a different show in some regard, because it won't all be just for me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, the references and kill counts and the jokes, like, they're all from my perspective. And but I think that if I want to truly be happy with continuing to make progress in my life and creatively and try other things that aren't just the kill count on YouTube, while still having the kill count exist because I like it and want it to exist for fans of it, I will probably have to make some adjustments that may result in a different show. But hopefully people will understand, and hopefully I can do other cool shit that people are equally interested in, because I love the kill count. I don't want it to be the only thing I ever do. You know, I don't want another 5 years to go by and me be like, I still haven't tried to write a script or anything or make a movie.
That's what I was just, well, let's segue into this now. Have you thought of writing some scripts for movies? Because I know you're passionate about horror, obviously with the channel, you're a huge slasher guy. Have you had some ideas about writing some scripts for some movies here, and even talking with some companies?
Yeah, we're actually, so I think the first step for making a movie, for me at least, would be producing, because producer is kind of all-encompassing job. They do a little bit of writing. They do a little bit of business stuff. They can look at ideas that other people have and mold them to make them better. I think that those are my strengths. It's hard for me to come up with new ideas from nothing. That's an incredible feat that I'm always impressed when people are able to do that. That type of creativity I don't really have, or at least if I do, I haven't exercised that muscle enough to be confident in doing it. But as far as like taking something and shaping it up to be better with suggestions and stuff, I think that I could do that really well. And so Chelsea and I are actually working on producing a film that our friend has written, and it's made some progress. So hopefully we will have more news and be able to actually make announcements about that in the coming months. But we are, taking steps to do that next thing. And so I think producing would be a nice first thing for me to do. And especially if that means me being able to get on a movie set and refamiliarize myself with everything that goes into making a movie, because so much goes into it. Yeah. And it's easy for people to be like, oh, dude, you make all these great videos about horror movies. You should make one yourself. Like, I'd love to, but it has to be good. It has to be. I can't just like make something just to make it and have it be shitty, because
something on Netflix. Yeah, you can't. It needs to have movement to it, and it's got to draw in an audience.
Yeah, because I especially think like if I make something and it's bad, then that's it. I don't think I would get another shot, because it would be this YouTuber stepped out of his lane, tried to make a movie. It was fucking garbage. Get back in your lane. Go make kill counts. That is what I would like to avoid. So I would have to have the time to focus on it and make sure that it was truly good, which I think I could do given the time to do it. But yeah, that'll be something that I think about more and more as time goes on, because I'm 32 now, I think. Yeah, 32. Which isn't old by any means, but you're no longer in your 20s. You no longer have like your whole life ahead of you. And it's time to start thinking about, what do I want to be doing right now? And what do I want to be doing in the next however many years? And like I said, I don't want to wake up in 5 years and have it just be, okay, I did another 300 kill counts. Great. Like, no matter how proud I am of those kill counts, it can't just be that. I got to do something else. So it's starting to get to that point. And I think with me taking time off for the wedding next year, we're getting married in January. Finally, after multiple delays due to COVID. I think that will work as a natural time to make some changes and try something else.
What's this wedding setting going to be like? Is it going to be something out of a horror movie? Like,
absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
we need to separate work and personal life. So, we're both obviously huge horror fans.
Yeah.
I'm still at the point where when I want to watch a random movie, I'm checking out Shudder because I just want to watch a horror movie. No, even though there are so many other movies I still want to watch, I'm still just drawn to horror, even if it's not for work. But no, the wedding is going to be our own personal thing. We will have Heather Langenkamp officiating it. She will be marrying Chelsea and I, Nancy from the Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a nice little touch. And she is also like a really good personal friend who is just the sweetest woman. We're getting lunch with her tomorrow, actually. So
wow.
I'm excited about that. And that'll be our touch of horror.
Yeah. That's huge. And congratulations on that. I would love to see if you do get to take this thing into the movie business, you bring back monsters such as the Universal monsters, and even anyone in this business. Go back to the real makeup effects of Vincent Price and House of Wax. I think that's one of the greatest monster movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
I mean, anything I do will involve practical effects.
Yeah, thank you, because the CGI is horrible. I can't deal with it.
No, even this movie that we're producing, like we got the script from our friend who is a great actor and writer. He's writing this as like a vehicle for him to star in, and it's a really good horror comedy. I would compare it to Freaky if I had to compare it to something. It's like a college set, just like kind of zippy horror comedy, but our first note was like, it needs to be gorier. Like if we're putting the Dead Meat name on it, it's got to be gory. We need an exploding head in the first few minutes. So that is what we're bringing to the table. That's just like, because he's not necessarily a huge horror fan. He's just he will watch horror movies, but he's just a really good writer and actor, like an incredible actor and a very funny guy. He's a stand-up comedian, and we are bringing the horror expertise to it. And we're like, trust us, if we're gonna have our name on it, we got to go like No, nothing
Pedal
even
to the metal.
yeah, nothing even close to a PG-13 thing. Like this
No.
gotta be hard R, just like gory, and we will guide you for that. And he's been open to that, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, but just thinking about the Universal monsters and how much of classics that they were, and they paved the way for slashers such as Michael, Freddy, and Jason. Do you feel as though that the younger audience has an appreciation, not even just horror fans, that younger audiences today? Because you look at all things in entertainment, music, and it's just every form of entertainment. I feel as though the youth, as well as like just as my generation and younger, they don't have a respect for things that came before them. Do you feel as though that's lost with looking back at films such as the Universal monsters and the classics and even silent films?
Um, Not sure. There will always be people of every generation who are willing to look back and appraise and enjoy and learn from the classics. Those people will always be around. I think probably every generation looks at the younger generation as like they don't respect what came before them.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a difference nowadays, I think it would be because of streaming and the lack of people just watching stuff on TV. When I was young, I don't know how old you are, but when I was young,
22.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. So yeah, we will have had different life experiences since I am 10 years older than you. When I was young, it was like you would just channel surf, and you would come across older things and things that you didn't seek out yourself, and you would just happen upon them and watch them because you were bored, because you didn't have internet, or because the internet that was there was web 1.0. There wasn't social media. You didn't have a smartphone. So people were bored more often and would just watch whatever was on. I watched a lot of old sitcoms on Nick at Night and TV Land. And a lot of people watched a lot of movies that they just came across on TV and wound up watching. Nowadays, since more people have streaming services, with streaming services, you have to select what you watch. I do like that Shudder, which I will always, I love Shudder so much. They have 2 Shudder TV stations that it's just playing whatever they've programmed, and you can turn it on, and it might be halfway through a movie and you got to wait for the next one, or you can just start watching that movie from the halfway point. I love it when I'm working out. I put that on and I'm like, oh, I don't really know what this movie is, but even though it's 40 minutes in, I'll just have it on while I'm working out and see what's going on. It reminds me of being younger and like channel surfing and just coming across things. I think that's a fun way to learn about things that you don't necessarily have to seek out for yourself. So if there is a difference with modern day younger people, that might be it. They're not exposed to that same kind of passive consumption of media, since they have to click on something and choose it. But I don't know. I think the counterpoint to that is that nowadays everything's so fucking referential, which I think has gone too far in that direction. But in the 90s, the reason Scream was such a huge movie and it felt so fresh is because movies didn't tend to name drop other movies like that. And
which you have the meta thing come into play.
Yeah, the characters of movies tended to be self-contained. They wouldn't as frequently talk about other media. Nowadays, everyone's working from the same point of like, we all know that we live in this world dominated by media and movies and TV shows and video games, that the characters in these things will reference other properties. And so maybe that's a way for people to, like younger people, to learn about older things. I know that, when I was younger, I would watch movies and look up what they were referencing. I would listen to They Might Be Giants, and they make all these weird fucking references, and I would look them up and learn about who Edith Head was. And, nowadays I would know Edith Head because she is a costume designer was a costume designer for like Hitchcock films. So I would know that with my job. But like, I knew who Edith Head was when I was fucking 13 years old because I looked her up because she was in a They Might Be Giants song. So hopefully, as things are referential nowadays, maybe younger kids will be curious enough to look them up. And now they can just pull out their phone and look it up. Maybe that's not as good retention as like when I had to, get home, type it up on the computer and like print out the page if I wanted to remember it. But it's hard. It's hard to answer a question like that.
It's so difficult, especially with the youth nowadays. There was a question I read from the comment section of what is your thoughts on the upcoming Hellraiser film that was announced? I know Doug Bradley won't be reprising the role of Pinhead, and I heard that the legendary, of course, creator of Hellraiser will be involved with this.
He will. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's first one since Bloodline, the fourth
Yeah.
one. I don't know anything about it except for Jamie Dorman. Is that her name? Is cast as Pinhead.
Cast as Pinhead. Yeah.
I think that would be really cool to see a totally different take on it. It won't just be some dude trying to do his Doug Bradley impression. You know, we'll get a totally different take that in some ways is more accurate to the book, since Pinhead is described as what almost a genderless being, but with a little girl's voice. I think I haven't read Hellbound in quite some time, so I can't say for certain, but from my understanding, that's the take. I don't know anything else about it, and I know that there's also a Hellraiser TV series being developed, which again I don't know anything about it except for the fact that Mike Doherty is helping to make that happen, who is another personal friend of ours, and you know I really love Trick or Treat. Krampus is great, so I'm excited to see what he does with that.
Yeah, Clyde. I think the fact that Clyde Barker is involved in some sort of way here, I think it's really piqued the fans' interest here. But I mean, I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Halloween 2018 is probably to thank for that. You know, it was brought back John Carpenter after a long absence from the series, and it showed that you can do a new installment in these classic series and have it feel modern and also be good. And I think that really spurred a lot of these new films and TV series being developed.
Mm-hmm. I'm piqued to see if there's going to be any more fights between legendary slashers as we saw with Freddy versus Jason. Have you thought of any
crossovers?
Yeah,
it's hard.
That would ever work again?
I don't know, because you know, like take Freddy, a crossover is not going to be as epic without Robert Englund playing him.
Yeah,
and he wouldn't. He's done with the character. He said. With the masked characters, you could probably get away with it, but even like if there was supposed to be a Halloween versus Hellraiser, I think that was.
I did read about that,
and that would have been. I think John Carpenter would have directed it, and Clive Barker would have been involved, and Doug Bradley would have been Pinhead. Like you can't do that now. You know, if Doug Bradley isn't Pinhead, if it's a random Pinhead, then the crossover doesn't feel as, for lack of a better word, epic. It doesn't feel as like, oh, it has led to that, like all these years of this character existing has led to this crossover, like it was with Freddy versus Jason, even though Kane Hodder didn't get to play Jason. Thankfully, Jason's masked, so it kind of, you could get away with it. But yeah, it's hard to say when that character, like if you did a Candyman crossover, but it wasn't Tony Todd, what's the point? Almost it's
exactly.
Like, you're telling me that this guy's Candyman, and then we're supposed to feel like this matchup is really a huge deal, but like I just met this guy, so yeah.
I totally get what you mean. What is James A. Janisse?
By the way, is the name of the actress who was cast as Pinhead. I don't know if I got that name right. I might have gotten it wrong.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure when we replay the interview and watch it, we'll see if you got that right. But what
Norman, is that a character? Is that like 50 Shades of Grey or some shit?
It may be. What is James A. Janisse's top 5 horror movies of all time?
The Thing, Scream. Those are the two that are easy. The others are hard because I feel like every time I learn more about a movie, it elbows its way up towards the top. Candyman, I have a ton of respect for, so maybe that's in the top 5. I love The Descent. That's probably up there. Man, it's tough because like, what are the classics and what are the ones that feel like most personally important to you? For a 5th one, I guess I could just say I love Wreck too. Maybe Wreck. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
That's another apocalyptic type of film that you got there. Yeah. I respect that top 5. It's different. Usually get the cliche Exorcist, The Shining, Halloween, but it's different. I respect it.
Yeah, I don't think any of those would be in my top 5. Shining could probably fight its way to the top 15, maybe. I really like that one. Exorcist is probably the classic horror movie that I'm most meh about, which is maybe a hot take, but and then Halloween
is.
and then Halloween is fine, but it's also I think it's more I like more of what it established than what it is itself, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In your mind, greatest remake of all time. This is tough because remakes are often, with purists such as myself, are looked down upon. If you could choose one remake that you think just embodied it and even surpassed the original, if you want to go there, that's kind of a hot take. But what's your thoughts on greatest remake, if there is one?
Well, I'm not going to count The Thing or It as remakes because I believe they are different adaptations,
reinventions
of the same source material. Yeah. With that being said, God, dude, I mean, maybe Friday the 13th. I think it's definitely better than the original. I think that original is not a good movie. And I think it just goes there. Yeah, I think it's the best version of those movies, or up there anyway.
Yeah. Man, anything else you want to talk about, man? James A. Janisse, you are here for the show. Anything else? You have the upcoming kill counts with Hellraiser 3 dropping this Friday. Any other ventures that you want to speak on, man?
No, we'll get a bunch of kill counts in December. Gonna do my best to have multiple releases a week and get some of the big hits from this year that people really want to see. Might close out the year with the Purge, because people tend to like watching me fight my way through those movies and try to count all the background bodies. And then my producer editor Zoran will be kill counting the Tremors franchise in the beginning of next year, so that I can take a little bit of a break, get married, get my business affairs in order, and like I said, just try to focus on doing stuff that isn't the kill count. So that's what's ahead for now.
Yeah. And congratulations, like I said, on everything, and just you having the #1 platform on YouTube for horror. And it sure is. And you really just give a lot of inspiration to the fans that watch, and they tune in, man. Every time you drop, they tune in. You see it in the comments, and you've created your own horror community in a way that it's amazing. We've seen it blow up in our faces, and the success that you've had. Keep going. I'm looking forward to everything you got forward throughout your career, especially if you get in this movie business and have success. You have a lot of things going in the right way that is going to be on the way, man.
Well, thank you, Max. You keep it up too, man. I saw that you interviewed Crazy Bone. I love Bone Thugs, man. In college, there were a number of Bone Thugs songs that I would come home from class and sit down and study the lyrics so that I could do them. I knew every word of Notorious Thugs at one point. Couldn't say them all, but I was able to do those raps, which is nuts. And Crazy's part was one of the most difficult. So I even fucking saw them. I forget which one of them was in jail when I saw them in 2007 or 8 at like a Detroit auto show. It was when their it was when their Super Poppy album came out around that time. Hold on, I want to see Bone Thugs discography. What's that?
See, you do know hip hop. What are you
a little bit.
Come
yeah.
on.
Was it Thug Stories? No, that's 2006. It was something. It was just a really poppy. Oh, Strength and Loyalty. Okay. I remember that album cover for sure. Flow Motion.
Okay, there you go.
Flow Motion came out, and like that's a cool song, but it's not the same, as the other stuff. Like, yeah, I saw that you interviewed him, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, cool.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But we get a real quick take. Top 5 rappers of all time, if you can name them. If you can, you mentioned Crazy Bone. That's a deep cut into a hip hop group. So I'm surprised.
Man, I don't know if Bone Thugs as a group would probably be up there.
I'll give that to you.
Yeah. I've always really liked Ludacris's voice.
Mm-hmm.
I love his like flow. So I gotta say Eminem because Detroit, and I was really into him. Well, I was really into like the Slim Shady LP.
Yeah.
And Marshall Mathers LP came out. I was like, this is good, but it's not as fun. And then he became like a super serious rapper because that first album was like almost comedic rap.
Yeah.
And fuck. Other rappers. Can you help me out with some suggestions?
Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Big Pun.
Out of them, Tupac I listen to the most. Hail Mary.
Yeah, Hail Mary.
Yeah. Come with me. Yeah. That's good.
Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang, unfortunately, I never really listened to a lot of.
Wow.
Like I respect them, and from what I've heard, I like, but like they weren't a band that I jumped into. Snoop, I got into for a little bit, yeah. And he's another guy like with Luda. It was just a cool voice, and flow. Never really got into like Kanye or Jay-Z or Drake. I am Googling rappers. Oh, and I'm wearing my Baby No Money shirt because I just went to a concert. Love that guy. Canadian version of me, just younger and cooler. And I love all of his tracks, and I eagerly await all the ones that he puts out.
Huge. Yeah, man. Like I said before, and essentially we're on the hip hop topic right now. I do suggest that you check out the Gravediggers and Cool Keith's Dr. Octagon, because those are horrorcore, which is hip hop and horror form albums.
Okay. Oh, you know who else? Black Star. Most Def.
Okay. And Talib Kweli. Yeah.
I listened to the hell. Is it just the one album that they have?
Yeah, that's the only one album they have.
I listened to that.
Certified classic.
Fuck out of that album. Yeah, front to back, multiple
Redefinition. That song's crazy.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, see, you do know hip hop. Get out of here with this. Oh, I'm like, get out of here. You know it. You're better than some people that I interview. I'll tell you.
See, that's the thing is I don't know it. I can't say I know it because especially now it's like, oh, I'm the horror guy. I know horror. I can speak with authority. Any other topic, I'm like, no, I don't know shit. Even if I know a little bit and can enjoy some things, I can't say that I know it. It would feel insincere.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, check out those albums that I told you. James and Janisse, let me tell you, you're always welcome on the show anytime you got anything to promote. I had a blast speaking with you. Like I said, keep on striving, doing what you do, and I appreciate everything that you do for horror, because it is the most important genre in all of entertainment and movies, man.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks a lot, Mac.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night, and congratulations on everything that's, like I said before, and your wedding too.
Thank you.
Much success to you, man.
All right, take care, man.
Enjoy your night, man.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.